Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 11-2. We're going to focus on making line plots. Now let's go ahead and get into our short lesson video, and then we can begin our notes and our guided practice together after that.
How can you make line plots? Think about this question during the lesson. Serena measured the lengths of her colored pencils. How can Serena make a line plot to show these lengths? Why might Serena want to organize and display the data in a line plot instead of a table? Serena can look for patterns. She could see which lengths of pencils occur most often or least often. What is the length of the shortest colored pencil? 4 1/8 inches. What is the length of the longest colored pencil?
Select your answer.
The longest colored pencil is 5 inches. How does knowing the lengths of the longest and the shortest colored pencils help you draw a line plot? It tells you where to start and end your number line. Now make a line plot. Step 1. Draw a number line and choose a scale based on the lengths of Serena's pencils. Mark halves, fourths, and eighths.
You can use equivalent fractions such as 1/2 equals 2/4 equals 4/8 to help make a line plot.
The scale should show data values from the least to the greatest. Step 2. Write a title for the line plot. Label the line plot to tell what the numbers represent. Step 3. Draw a dot for each pencil length. Why are there 3 dots above 4 3/4? There are 3 pencils that are each 4 3/4 inches long. Now you know how to make a line plot.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our notes and our guided practice. And remember, when you're working on a line plot, you have a number line that's evenly spaced. You have a title for your line plot. You have your scale that shows the units that you're working with. And then you have your data points evenly spaced out on your line plot. So our focus question for this lesson is, how can you make line plots? So first, you need to draw a number line based on your data. So to figure out which numbers you need to go from, look at your smallest data point and look at your largest number data point, and then that'll help you figure out how to space apart your number line. So you can either make it starting from the smallest number to the biggest number, or you could start a little bit smaller than your smallest number and go up a little bit bigger than your biggest number. Next, you're going to separate that number line based on the data. So if your data points are in halves, you're going to break each whole into 2 parts. If your data points are in fourths, you're going to break each whole into 4 equal parts. You need to add a title to your line plot and then choose your scale or units to match your data and label that. So let's take a look at our first example. It says the manager of a shoe store kept track of the length of the shoes sold in a day. Create a line plot from the data. What length shoe was sold the most? So this is the data that they gave us. You have the length of the shoes over here, and here you can see they're organized by length. The number of shoes, so 2 of our 7 1/4 inch shoes got sold. 1 shoe got sold that was 1 3/4 inches, 3 shoes that were 8 inches, and so on. So the question is asking what length shoe was sold the most. So you're going to look at the number sold and find your highest number and see what it corresponds to. What shoe size does it relate to? Here we can see that 6 shoes that were 10 and 1/2 inches were sold. So that had the greatest number of shoe sales. So the 10 and 1/2 shoes were sold the most. Next, we're going to create a line plot with this data. So I have a title for my line plot, shoe sales in a day. I have the scale and the units, which is the inches down here at the bottom. I have my number line that I made based on the data from the smallest size to the biggest size. So the smallest size shoe I had was 7 1/4. So I started at the 7-inch mark. And my longest length shoe was 12 3/4. So I went out to the 13-inch mark. So I went a little bit smaller and a little bit bigger. I made sure my number line was evenly spaced. And then when I started to record my data, I made sure that those were about the same size marks and they were evenly spaced from each other. So that way I could read my information. So those X's show how many of each size were sold each day. So if there were 2 of my 7 1/4 that were sold, I have 2 marks above where 7 1/4 is. There was 1 of the 7 3/4, so there's 1 mark there. Over here, if you go out to the 10 1/2, there were 6 of them, so you'll see 6 marks over here. So whatever the total number of shoes that were sold, that's the total number of X's that you're going to have on your line plot. Let's take a look at another example. It says Trisha measured how far her snail moved each day for 5 days. Make a line plot of Trisha's data. So over here on the left, we can see the day of the week and then the distance that it traveled. So on Monday, it traveled 1 4/8 inches. Tuesday, it traveled 1 3/8 inches. Wednesday, it traveled 1 1/8. Thursday, 2 1/8, and then Friday, 1 1/8. So I made my line plot to go from 1 inch to 2 2/8 inches. I added a title at the top. I added the units for my scale at the bottom. And then I started to put in my data. 1 4/8, I marked that. 1 3/8, I marked that. 1 1/8, I marked that. 2 1/8, I marked that. And then another 1 1/8, I marked that as well. Now let's take a look at our guided practice. It says the scale of a line plot, length of Serena's pencils, goes from 4 to 5 by 8ths. Why is this a good scale? So since her data is measured with 4ths and 8ths, using 8ths is a good scale because it matches all of the data collected. Remember, 2 of your 1/8 size pieces is the same thing as 1/4 size piece. So breaking it up into 8ths was a good scale for that one. For number 2, compare the lengths of Sandy's pencils with the length of Serena's pencils on the previous page. Who has more pencils that are the same length? And which set of data was easier to compare and why? So using your book on the previous page, Serena has more pencils that are the same length. Serena's data was easier to compare because it was organized in a line plot, while Sandy's was still in a data table where the numbers were still kind of mixed up. And for number 3, it asked us to put the length of Sandy's pencils into a line plot, which we did below. You can see that we have the title, we have the number line that is evenly spaced, we have the marks for the data, those X's, and we have the scale showing the units that we used. That's it for this lesson. If you have any question, 4th grade, please let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.